Hello and welcome back to Instant Regret. As always, I'm your host, Sanhat. Today I'm going to highlight a build for my favorite champion in Blizzard's upcoming Heroes of the Storm MOBA. It is currently in alpha development and available to certain people if you receive an invite. Now, this build is for Tychus, who is probably one of the more versatile champions in the game. I'm going to do a build, and then I'm going to show you a little bit of gameplay using that build. You'll notice that in the gameplay I have slowed down important highlights, either my mistakes, my opponent's mistakes, or just the awesomeness that is Tychus. I will also be adding time edits to the YouTube channel so that you can skip all this and get right to the build or the gameplay. And now for the build itself. As you can see from the graphic on your screen, at level 1 you have two choices. You can either take armor-piercing rounds, which increases the damage your Q does to the primary target by 20%, my personal favorite, or you can take Path of the Warrior, which gives Tychus 35 health per level. At level 20 this is about 1500 HP, which is pretty substantial in this game. The easy rule of thumb is, at level 1, if you have a warrior or another tank on your team, it's better to take armor-piercing rounds than it is to take Path of the Warrior. However, if you don't, Path of the Warrior does give you a substantial health boost late game. At level 4, you'll take Melting Point. This gives Frag Grenade, your W, a dot on any minions or structures it hits. This significantly helps with Tychus' pushing and sieging potential. At level 7, you'll take First Aid, which heals you for 35% of your maximum HP over 6 seconds. Of course, if you took Path of the Warrior, it will be more effective, but either way, it's still one of the two major cooldowns that makes Tankus not only viable, but amazing. Level 10 is the first chance you'll get to choose a heroic ability. The one that you're going to want to pick is Commandeer Odin. This gives you a secondary health bar in the form of the Odin which you jump into. It gives you two different abilities. It also makes Tychus' attacks not require a windup. At level 13 you'll take Lead Rain, which if you took armor-piercing rounds further increases the utility of Overkill. It applies a stacking slow starting at 10% and going to 40% to any person that is hit by Overkill, or Q. This can be positioned to hit an entire team and is one of the strongest AoE slows in the game. At level 16 you'll take Stone Skin. This is the second cooldown that makes Tankus what he is. It gives you a shield equal to 30% of your maximum HP. At level 20, as with level 1, you have two choices. My personal preference is Bolt of the Storm, which is essentially like League of Legends Flash. It teleports you forward a set distance or wherever your mouse cursor happens to be placed. Even though you're a tank, I prefer this to get out of situations where you would otherwise die, or to reposition yourself better in a fight. Your other option is Big Red Button. This increases the duration of Commandeer Odin by 50%, and it gives him a third ability, which is basically a nuke. I'll take that if I am never in any danger and if positioning in fights is relatively easy. Basically, if we're already stomping the enemy team. However you decide to spend your points, Tychus' main strength lies in his disruption, positioning, and overall annoyance factor as Tankus. You basically have the ability to drive an entire team insane by screwing up their positioning and making yourself largely unkillable. And now for the gameplay I spoke about earlier, where you'll get to see Lord Tankus in action. You'll see here that at level 1, I took armor-piercing rounds, because we already have a Muradin on our team who tends to have a large amount of health and regen, as well as a lot of disruption abilities. I want to sort of shore up the weaknesses in Tychus' early game, where he doesn't have a lot of sustain, and he doesn't really have a lot of damage, especially burst. This is basically the start of any game. I go into lane with my lane partner, in this case happening to be Illidan, and I drop some harass on the enemy team. I juke in and out of bushes and so on and so forth, but mainly it's a standard laning phase. I slowed down this part to show the potential of Tychus' sustain damage, even early game. Sonya comes back into lane with Arthas in an attempt at a gank, and although they do kill my teammate, I manage to kill both of them. Obviously, since my health is low, I back here. In a little while, I head back out to lane, sort of running in circles a little bit, don't mind me. I'm going to try and contest the shrine with my Illidan partner. Now, Arthas gets himself caught here in the bushes, and we finish him off pretty easily. 2 versus 1, of course. We take the shrine, and I pick up Melting Point to help with our pushing. Sonya engages, but we push her out. After that, Illidan and I push towards their base a little bit because we know that when Arthas respawns, it's going to be another fight for the shrine. As predicted, as soon as they're both back in lane, they head straight for the top shrine. Now here you'll see me basically walking in a circle and using Frag Grenade to disrupt their positioning in order to draw them away from my Illidan partner. Unfortunately, I do make a mistake here. I should have run straight back to base and either used my well or backed. I forgot that Sonya does a massive amount of burst damage. After that rather humiliating death and the whirlwind BM from Sonya, I respawn and I run myself back to lane. Unfortunately, because we lost that fight at Shrine, they do manage to get the Dragon Knight, and we are forced to attempt to defend. And just, harassing. I pick up First Aid. It's the first of the cooldowns that will actually make me more difficult to kill, and now I feel more confident going into a fight. Here you'll see the second of my 2 mistakes. Now I triggered First Aid before running into this fight, but what I failed to realize is it would be gone by the time Sonya re-engaged. We do get the follow-up kill on Sonya, and Felicitas is doing a fairly good job of preventing them from pushing any farther. I respawn and I'm hoping I can get back to contest before they realize what's going on. And I do. Due to the overkill, I actually slow down the enemy Tychus to the point where Muradin can come in, grab him, CC him, and we can kill them off. Now my First Aid is still on cooldown and I don't have Commandeer Odin yet, but I do have Frag Grenade, so I can disrupt their positioning again, knocking them both away from my teammates. We manage to kite Sonya and Arthas long enough that Illidan makes it out alive, and we get a triple kill. Now I have Commandeer Odin, so I am feeling pretty confident about the next fight, wherever it may occur. Since we have some free time, we decide to pick up the Knights to help us push even though we're not going to be in lane, and we notice that the Shrine timer has started. We have 2 tops, so I go up to help push the minions back. Frag Grenade with Melting Point is really going to help me with that. Regardless of how many people are in lane, I can full clear minion waves fairly easily. I do walk right into Sonya and Arthas in a bush, but I'm tanky enough that they can't really kill me right away, so I just walk out. They do get a second Dragon Knight, and I'm going to attempt to stop them from killing the base. So although the Dragon Knight kicks me away the first time, the second time he goes to kick me, I use my E and dash at the same time, preventing me from going anywhere. Then of course I get low, and rather than hit Commandeer Odin, I decide to save it for the next team fight. Instead just back to base, heal up, and go back out. I figure my teammates can handle a 4 versus 4. The enemy team made a critical mistake staying in here with half HP and low mana, thinking that they could actually take us in a fight. Now, I do tunnel vision a little bit here on Arthas, who is probably the tankiest member of their team, rather than helping with Sonya and Vala chasing down our Falstaff. That was my mistake. However, I'm going to make up for it. I'm going to try and kill them both, if possible. I juke them with Commandeer Odin, and I chase them off. I do get a little silly here. I probably could have queued as soon as it was off cooldown, but instead I wait a little while. I do try and queue her thinking that maybe she went to the healing shrine, but she was smart and backed off. Sonya comes in, I juke, we dance just a little bit. I pick up Lead Rain, which is really going to help me out with utility. Since I'm at only about half HP, I decide to take the healing well instead of backing, although ordinarily if I'm below half, I will go all the way back to base as opposed to wasting a healing well cooldown when I could need it to use in the middle of a team fight. The shrine is back up, Falstad and I go up in 2 vs 1 Arthas again. Now he did have full vision of us, so I'm not really sure why he decided to try and take it on his own. Maybe he thought he could make it out, but he took Sindragosa, which does not give him any extra healing, as opposed to Army of the Ghouls, which he can sacrifice to heal himself. Here I'm just clearing some waves, waiting for the next big event to start. I do want to stay around top so that I can try to hold on to the shrine. Again, I get ganked by Sonya and Vala. Unfortunately, Commandeer Odin is not really enough to stop both of them from killing. Team fight at mid. Falstad does some pretty cool stuff here, killing the Vala and then turning around. Unfortunately, he does get stunned and killed by the Sonya, that burst damage I was talking about earlier. That was pretty silly of Sonya to stay mid, but she realizes her mistake and backs off. So I push minions back into their base, hoping to get some more structure damage done. Here, she comes out and attempts to kill me, whirlwinding on my face. She does do a good job of interrupting my overkill, however, due to Bolt of the Storm and both of my cooldowns, I managed to make it out just fine. Now, I do get a healing well and I head back out to help my teammates. Vala and Arthas are both here, and while we do focus Arthas for a little while, our damage is enough to finish off both of them. And this is my favorite part of Tychus, moonwalking all the way back to base. I'm checking the positioning of my teammates to see who might need the most help, and I notice that Falstad is top attempting to defend the shrine on his own, so I go up to assist. And it's a 2 vs 1 again. Unfortunately, Sonya can't get away due to frag grenade and my slow, in addition to the sheer amount of damage that Falstad puts out in the fight. A little bit of frag grenade on their structures, playing like Murky a little bit. And we're just basically pushing in, hoping to take a keep before anyone comes up to respond. Arthas does come up, but he quickly realizes that there is nothing he can do against 2 characters with as much damage as we have. Arthas apparently didn't learn his lesson from earlier because he comes back in an attempt to kill us. Rather than focus him this time, I go straight for Vala. We use frag grenade to push him back and we get a fairly easy double kill. Moving right on, and that's my killing spree on Tankus. I go back, half HP again, pick up my healing well, and I head mid to help with the Dragon Knight, which we have now picked up thanks to Falstad and I holding the top shrine. While we are just pushing in and killing a keep, watch carefully the next team fight. You'll notice that all of their team has gotten low attempting to push us off, rather than harassing us. Sonya comes in over the wall, followed by Muradin, but they're coming in one at a time, which means our positioning is a lot better than theirs. We're grouped up. I blow both my cooldowns and back up in order to drop Commandeer Odin. And Vala, without realizing it, walks right back into her death. Now, my health was pretty low when I hit Commandeer Odin, however, my first aid was ticking outside of my Odin. Here, Arthas again realizes his mistake about engaging on us, and we clean up, before pushing a little bit further into their base. My health is low, but I'm pretty confident in my team's ability to peel for me, so we decide to go for broke and take a double keep. Now my team is in a pretty commanding position. However, I still take Bolt of the Storm. I've noticed that they like to focus me a lot, or at least Sonya does, and I would like the ability to reposition if she gets a stun off on me, or if Arthas manages to hit me with either Sindragosa or Path of Frost. Since my teammates are in other lanes, I go top in order to split the XP. XP is shared between your entire team, so if there is a minion wave that is dying and no one is there to claim it, your team gets no XP from it. Now, Arthas blows multiple cooldowns on me thinking Sonya would be there in time, but I bolted the storm out of Sonya's Q. Now, realizing that they're actually silly enough to chase me and that Falstad decided to come in and try and help, I decided to harass a little bit more. One of the main things I want to point out here is that even though this is a good position with both of them low, Commandeer Odin actually has a cast time before you're in the Odin and can move, so when I hit the button, they all decide to run away, so I don't actually get a kill on either of them, and I largely wasted the cooldown when I could have just run back to base. Their team is pushing in bot, so I go down to assists. With some slow and some help from Muradin, we take both of them. And I get my Mayhem, 10 kills with no deaths. We clear out their mercs and we push a little further in. I'm going to try and push bot back so that it's moving towards their base, just like in League with a buildup of minions. I do notice a fight going on mid. So I go in, and I am attempting to channel overkill on multiple of them, seeing Murden coming in. He does get a good stun off on Vala, so we manage to finish her off, and the other two take off running because they realize it was a very, very silly fight to get into. Here I start channeling overkill before Sonya enters the bush. Now she does manage to interrupt it with her Q, but I bolted the storm over her head, and the ensuing confusion lets me get away. Instead of chasing Arthas, I go down to assist my teammates in case anyone attempts to interrupt the Dragon Knight. No one does, but it was still the better course of action even in hindsight. So I back to base and wait for my health to regen, as always. I've got the pretty little flames on my name tag for my mayhem. The Dragon Knight is pushed all the way into their core rather than getting any of their keeps, which is a strategy I tend to agree with, and their team is getting really low attempting to chase. Again, I come in, I help clean up. We're peeling for some of the other people. No problem. We get a nice quad kill on Vala there. And we're just pushing in towards their core. There's not a lot they can do with only one of them up, even though we are pretty low. And I get my untouchable, which is 15 kills with no deaths. The power of Tankus at work. We focus down their core, and boom, victory is ours. Thanks for watching, and if you like what you saw, leave a comment and like and subscribe for more.